And speaking about the trends and big picture items affecting the manufacturing industry, industry as a whole.
And there are many.
And there are many, now and in the future.
Right.
Our next segment on the show is going to consider the state of the industry from the perspective of the consumer perceptions. How does the average person perceive manufacturing? Is U.S. manufacturing in danger? If you'd like to get in on this conversation, again, just email us at qdl@qualitydigest.com to send in a question. And by the way, we did have a question, Mike alluded to it, we did have a question that came to us regarding some specs on the Faro 8th axis. I did forward that on to Michelle. If I do hear back from Michelle during the show, I'll go ahead and answer that question online. But if I don't, Michelle, the person who sent that, Michelle will get back to you via mail to answer your question.
Yeah, via email. She'll write you back. And yeah, I mean, if you do have a question, Dirk and I could probably answer some of these questions.
But we don't want to.
Well, we don't want to. So I mean,
don't want to get in trouble.
We're not going to fake our way through. If you have a question, we can't answer it on the show. It's for one of our guests that again isn't here on the show because that segment's come and gone. Just email it. Again, qdl@qualitydigest.com. We'll get it to that person and they'll get back to you with an answer, or maybe they'll email us with an answer before the end of the show. All right, well, I think now we're going to move on to our next segment. Hopefully we have our next guest queued up. Joining us now to delve into this issue of perception versus reality as it applies to the manufacturing industry. We want to go ahead and welcome to our show Shawn Fitzgerald, and Shawn is the Vice President of Marketing for Thomas. So Shawn, thanks again for joining us today as we celebrate Manufacturing Day.
Yes, happy Manufacturing Day, guys. Good to see you, Dirk and Mike.
Hey, and Shawn, just to people are probably familiar with Thomas. I'm familiar with the big green Thomas books, right? Same company, right?
Yep, same company.
The big green, you'd have like an entire bookcase full of these huge green Thomas binders.
Yep, 120 years of history here at Thomas. So Thomas is a data and platform company today. We have our platform at thomasnet.com, where that's for supplier discovery. We have over 600,000 suppliers from North America. We have around 800,000 buyers and engineers that are registered users. We have about 2 million folks come through every month. So every 2 seconds on our platform, there's a new supplier that's getting sourced.
Okay, well, let's start. You guys did a manufacturing perception report, which I thought was pretty interesting. What were some of the top line results from that report?
Sure. The two biggest that I found really interesting were the fact that when we asked consumers, what do you think the state of manufacturing is right now? More than 55% of them answered that they thought manufacturing was either weak or in a decline. I've been in this industry serving manufacturing for my entire career, and I couldn't tell you that that's further from the truth right now, which is really interesting to me. I think what we saw in the early 90s was with the advent of the internet, we saw an entire generation of folks move away from manufacturing and into knowledge work. And what we're seeing are those folks starting to come back, and I got some more stats for you from the survey too, but I think this is a little bit reminiscent from those days. Manufacturing is absolutely booming right now with the tax changes that went on here earlier in the year, bringing all that money back offshore and putting it to work. We're seeing people spending in almost every industry right now.
And Shawn, the term, we always see it, made in America. People love that term, certainly. I think we all do. And it still has cachet, I think, to many people. But there may, in certain segments, certain sectors, certain manufacturing industries, be price sensitivity that goes with made in America. So made in American products may be more expensive in certain areas. So does that cachet overcome some price sensitivity for the consumers?
It does. The consumers are still looking to buy American when they can. I think there's been a lot of changes over time. Part of the results also saw that almost 90% of folks thought that quality was going to be equal to, if not better, for goods made here in the U.S. So we are seeing people willing to spend that extra money right now to buy American.
And the manufacturing sectors, I mean, there's differences across those sectors. What do you see as the greatest growth in individual sectors? Which sectors you think have done the best according to the survey? And what would be maybe some of the secrets to success of those sectors? Automotive versus consumables or various different sectors?
Sure. I think some of the really big ones that we're seeing, there's a lot happening inside of medical right now. You have the baby boomers aging as a group, right, as one of the largest segments of society. So there's a lot of investment and development going into that area. So we're seeing a lot of money spent there and a lot of activity and sourcing there. Aerospace and military is way up also right now. And I was really excited to see last week, we're seeing a nice surge in valves as well, which means expect oil and gas to start coming back stronger than it's been before also.
That's awesome. Let's talk about automation, because this is something that we talk about a lot on the show. I mean, I think everybody's really curious about it. I mean, as anything, as any innovation, any change that happens, there's threats, there's opportunities, there's risks that come from that. So what do you look at as kind of the inherent threats and opportunities in automation? And talk about it maybe from the perspective not only of the manufacturers, but of workers within that, and even consumers as well. What are the threats and opportunities that come from automation?
Sure. Let's take both sides of it. So first, on the threat side, the popular thesis on this one is that it's going to eliminate jobs that won't return. I don't believe that's true. There's a study that came out recently that said about 75 million jobs will be eliminated by automation and another 133 million will be created. So we'll be 58 million to the good after those changes. If you look to history, I think we have a whole lot of events that we can look to that'll give us some guidance here, everything from the loom all the way forward, right? There are always going to be innovations in the way that you can get things done better and more reliably. So I believe that there's just going to be more opportunity with different technology as it comes forward. So of all those new jobs, yes, they won't be exactly the same, but they will require some new training. And that's where you can see a whole lot of training on as far as STEM and technology goes in elementary, middle schools, and high schools right now also.
And are we doing, I mean, this is something that we're talking about a lot today. Do you think we're doing a good enough job in the educational system here in the United States to have that level of opportunity for the workers of tomorrow?
I do think we're getting better, and it's an interesting part of our study. More than 2/3 of folks in the survey said that they would actually encourage someone to go into a job in manufacturing. I can tell you this is very different from about 8 years ago. I went to a New Jersey Tooling and Manufacturing Association meeting. One gentleman got up that owned a business and told a story about going down to the unemployment line and offering apprenticeships to folks and people turning him down. So I think from that story there to where we're at today with the survey, with 2/3 of folks saying that they would encourage someone to get into manufacturing now, I think we're starting to see that confluence of technology and manufacturing coming together. So, you know, as we saw in the early 90s, or the late 90s rather, with the internet coming in and disrupting the way a lot of businesses worked and the way a lot of traditional jobs worked, it made a lot of new jobs also. So what we're seeing in manufacturing with Industry 4.0 is with all of the tracking and sensors and AI and machine learning and automation and robotics in there also. We're seeing that trend happen again inside of manufacturing, and it's become kind of cool and sexy again too now, right? I'll attribute some of that to, I'm a big Mythbusters fan, so thank you to Adam and Jamie and folks like that for making it cool again.
And you know, there's still this reliance for a lot of young people who are in high school, even before high school, as in grade schools, many times middle schools, where the 4-year college is always the end goal for a lot of people, and for parents too. And that certainly is a great path for a lot of people, but it may not be for everybody. And I think that's part of maybe the solution is these technical schools, these 2-year colleges, community colleges, maybe apprenticeships are some answers to filling those job gaps too.
It's true. It's, you know, the popular opinion has been that a 4-year degree is the only way to have a successful career going forward, and that's just simply not true. There are folks that are in extremely high demand in the technical space and skills trades that make extremely good livings right off the bat. I'm looking towards those high purity welders and things like that as well, where as your skills increase, you know, your need is also increased, and your compensation goes up with that as well. So I think folks are starting to look back more to the trades and skill side of things where historically they hadn't.
Yeah, I think it was Joe Cernuto. Was that
Joe Caranudo? Yeah, we were just
Car-
talking
Carano-
about that.
We're just talking about that the average manufacturing wage in
$90,000.
Jersey is 90
Yeah,
grand. So
right.
that's a pretty good paying job.
Even on the East Coast, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Well, Shawn, you've been very generous with your time today on Manufacturing Day. We really appreciate it. We have a minute or so left, and I think I want to give you a plug and let you guys kind of talk a little bit about what Thomas does. I know you have a new piece of software that's pretty cool, so
Sure,
give us a little time
we're
on that.
really excited. Our mission here at Thomas has always been to, help the manufacturing community find what they need when they need it. So all those buyers and engineers and MROs, our job is to really be helpful for them and get them in touch with the businesses that are going to help them get the job done during the day. So what we've developed is a new piece of software called Thomas WebTrax. It delivers opportunity intelligence for industry. What that is actionable in-market data that allows all of the manufacturers that we work with to understand exactly where everyone's in the buying process that's looking for their products or services, and it gives them a way to help these folks out all the way through the journey. So we're giving that away for free to every manufacturing company and industrial company right now. So just to continue the journey together back all the way, as you mentioned, from the green books to today, just a different way of getting the job done.
Well, Shawn Fitzgerald, thanks for joining us today on Manufacturing Day. I hope you have a great Manufacturing Day, you and everybody at Thomas. We really appreciate your time on the show today.